Hi, and welcome everyone to Virtual Theater. The Metaverse smashes the four walls. This is day 3 of the VRAR Global Summit Europe, and this is a fabulous gathering here on Friday, October 1st. So happy October to everybody. I'm Chris Pfaff. I am the co-chair of the Storytelling Committee of the VRAR Association. I'm also CEO of Chris Pfaff Tech Media LLC, and I have, of course, some of the leading producers and progenitors of virtual theater with me on your upper frame there, Lorne Svarc. He's the CEO and founder of Technodramatists. He joins us from Montreal today. Bienvenue, Lorne.
Merci.
Yeah. And on the other side of me is Brandon Powers from Brandon Powers Projects. Welcome, Brandon.
Hello.
Good to see you. On the lower side, we have Blair Russell from Crux. How are things, Blair? Welcome.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great. It's great to have you here. And last but not least, Kiira Benzing from Double Eye Studios. Welcome, Kiira.
Welcome. Bienvenue. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Great. And so we're going to get started. What we're going to do is have short presentations from each of our panelists, and then we'll have a discussion. As always, please put your questions or comments in the chat line, and we will have a Q&A immediately after this session wraps for about 20 minutes or so. So we will be talking to you even more after that. But without further ado, we're going to start today. I'm going to hand it off to Lorne Svarc. Lorne?
Hi, my name is Lorne Svarc. I am the founder and CEO of Technodramatists. And basically, I started this company because I believe that augmented reality and theater and live performance in general are two mediums that are perfectly suited for one another. But that it's going to take people to start innovating and figuring and just trying different things in order to figure out what that really means and how augmented reality is going to become another part of the live performer and the theater artist tool set, like lighting, costumes, set design, more recently projections that you see everywhere. And basically our philosophy and what we believe is that the way that we're going to get there is by getting augmented reality tools in the hands of as many people as possible. So what we do is we create augmented reality tools for performers and live performance. And what that means is that the user interfaces that we build are built geared towards people performing on stage without distracting from the performance. So we do everything markerless when we do motion capture. We do devices that could hide on set. We make performers are able to control effects with body positions, things like that. And then the other thing that we do is that we make it really, really easy to use. So any of the tools that we build can be taught 80% of their functionality in 30 minutes or less. And we often even use tools that everybody has. So we use things like iOS devices and webcams so that there isn't a massive barrier to entry to get people into it. Because if you need 5 Intel computers tethered together and a bunch of computer software engineers to do your project, you're really limiting the amount of people that can start playing. And anybody who's done theater knows, right? We call them plays because you're playing. So if we take out that aspect of it, it's much harder to get that joy of theater. And again, the beauty of augmented reality and theater is that they both rely on synchronicity, things happening in the same moment, and augmented reality, a real-time tool. So this way, putting them together, it accents the best parts of both, right? You get to see the coolness of augmented reality. People often think what is augmented reality? What's it doing? Why does it matter? It matters because it's located in a place and time. It's able to augment a place and time based experience. We love theater and live performance because we're all there at the same time, in a room experiencing things together. So Technodramatists relies on that philosophy and making it as easy as possible for people to use these tools. So I'm just going to quickly show you a couple of the things our tool sets do. One big thing is that it replaces often expensive and difficult to do things on stage. So it can create virtual sets and virtual props. Forgot to share my screen. Y'all see that?
Yes.
Right, so as you can see here, it's occlusion. We have 2 performers on stage the real time. Here is a set. We could do camera filters. Here is a moon. We have a performer running around it, under the table. Right, so we're showing here, going to the next one.
Lorne will return momentarily, I'm sure. So we'll wait for
visual effect there.
It was a special effect. It's the disappearance effect, not the deletion. He's sometimes a magician. While we're waiting for Lorne to come back, Brandon, I'm going to toss it over to you. So Brandon Powers, ladies and gentlemen.
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here, and I'm going to share my screen as well, and we'll dive into a little bit of what I do. Here we go. So, as Chris said, my name is Brandon Powers, and I'm a creative director and choreographer who works across physical and virtual space. And more than anything, I am so passionate about bringing artists and technologists together. I believe there is so much we have to learn from each other, and that it's really all about finding the strengths of both sides of that equation and the weaknesses of both sides of that equation, making it a really complementary relationship, and also to really focus on translation and making sure everyone understands what they're talking about, which is why it's great to have this conversation here today. When I'm talking about my work practice, I'm often putting it into these three main categories: create, build, and transform. Firstly, create, that I create these seamless visceral experiences. Second, that I building interdisciplinary community, bringing those artists and technologists together, as I was just talking about. And lastly is transforming, which I think is a really important part of as well. Bringing my theater and dance practice into the fold and talking about how we can really transform the future of embodiment and interactivity by melding these two worlds together. So I'm going to briefly just kind of walk through each of these tenets today. So on the create side, one example of my work is a piece called Queer Skins Arc, which had its premiere at Tribeca in 2020, as well as Cannes and Venice. And it's a virtual reality piece, a part of the larger Queer Skins transmedia universe created by Ilya Silyak and Cyril Sobolski, which I joined them for on this second episode of the VR component. And in this piece, it really all centers around this interactive dance, which happens between two characters, which are captured utilizing volumetric capture. And this dance, we like to say, you are co-choreographing with me in real time, even though these dancers aren't live, and even though I'm not there pulling the triggers as well, because the way the dance was created is such that the dance is in these different segments or chapters that are pulled from different journal entries from these characters' lives, and they're randomly kind of triggered together. The space is changing, so it really feels like a live, fluid piece with you, all with a really clear story in the way that we set it up dramaturgically. We were really excited to have the opportunity to collaborate with Intel Studios on this piece, which was the world's largest volumetric capture stage, an amazing space that allowed us to really fully create our vision and make a massively large dance and allow them to really run around the space. It was really fantastic. And we learned a lot about how to really use volumetric in a way and use its advantages to our creative best potential. Then we have on the build side, where I work at Musical Theater Factory, Fifth Wall Forum, and even on TikTok. At Musical Theater Factory, for example, which is an artist service organization here in New York City, dedicated to serving artists that are dismantling oppressive ideologies through musical theater. And I lead our all access and director choreographer programming there, and launched what we call MTF XR, which is a program dedicated to creating new musicals that are utilizing XR technology. And it's really about that idea, like I was saying, of building that bridge between the artists and technologists with a focus on equity, and really making sure that we don't make the same mistakes we've made in other industries of who has access to this technology, who has access to the education, and make sure that all artists have that opportunity. One example of this work is a piece called Dark Girl Chronicles, Chronicle X, by one of our resident artists, Nia Witherspoon, which was presented at The Shed, an amazing location here in New York, and allowed us to really showcase what's possible when you introduce an artist who had never worked with, in this case, augmented reality before, and really facilitate their vision. I'll show you a quick clip of this work. so we had this large onboarding experience where folks move through different parts of the set and witness these worlds come to life through these different portals. And then we moved to this moment in the show where our ancestors are kind of calling back to us. And we had these volumetrically captured figures tracked all throughout the entire space of the giantness of the shed. It made it feel like they were all dancing, kind of coming through the realm together to be with us. And we worked with Blinksel, which is an awesome AR company out of Australia, to make this happen. Lastly, next on this side, we have Fifth Wall Forum, which is a free event that brought together live performance makers and XR makers that we launched last year. Had tons of RSVPs. We gathered a really amazing group of talent and folks a part of it, many of whom are here today on this call. And we kicked off this incubator program called The Connector, which allowed these multiple XR teams to come together and really showcase what's possible when we bring this interdisciplinary knowledge together. Then I'm also big on TikTok and really think it's another important thing to talk about when it comes to promoting all this work. And then just in closing here, I'll say that transform is a final kind of component of what I'm talking about. And I believe that in order to create more empathetic experiences, we need to create more embodied experiences, and using choreographers is a really powerful way to do that. And I've coined this term called embodiment design, which is a human body-centric approach to user experience. And essentially, we work from the inside out. We design how we think our visitor in headset should move, because it's a spatial medium, it's an interactive medium. And then we start to design how everything looks around it. And so I love pairing with other teams that might have never realized that they could work with the choreographer because they're not making a dance, and create with them. This is some specs from a piece that was just actually at Venice called Glimpse, that I made this interactive dance sequence with them. I really believe that theater and dance makers are made for XR. It's a really collaborative environment. And that we are here to kind of continue these amazing conversations. And thank you. And I'm looking forward to the next part.
Wow, thanks, Brandon. It's great work, and I love the fact that you're bringing that level of embodiment, as you will, and empathy into your work. And want to ask you a bit more about particularly the Shed production. Lorne, we're going to come back to you because one of your special effects was so powerful it somehow removed you completely from our little metaverse here. And Brandon was only too happy to just take the spotlight away from you, but he's going to bring it back to you. So I'm going to throw it back to you again, and we'll just consider this a retake. So, you know,
I'll live or die by the power of live performance. You know, sometimes this is what people like. Something can go wrong. Anything can go wrong. That's why we do this.
We're prepared for that. That's
right.
why we're creatives. Come on.
One of my favorite stories, when we were developing our Facing app, we have an augmented reality improv group called Autocorrect. And we had a glitch where the avatars' heads were just flipping around. And like, they were so mad when we fixed it because like they thought it was hilarious. But we were also doing a Shakespeare show at the same time with that tech. So they were a lot happier that the exorcism head wasn't happening.
The improv group, or is this a different thing?
Yeah, it's the improv group, who, by the way, will be performing at the Augies in November. So that's exciting.
Everyone, yeah, definitely.
Everyone tune into that.
Yeah. Okay, back to you, my friend.
Back to the presentation. Here we go. Let's hope it doesn't crash this time. Shouldn't. Yeah, so you know, a big thing that we use is motion capture. Motion capture, again, always markerless. We don't want to be distracted from the audience. So here's a few clips of that. This was from a Canadian artist named Joko, a music show. This is from our play Alibi in February, which was a virtual play. Here's painting with his hands. It's a really cool, fun effect. Lots of things there. Some particle effect, motion capture here. Some face sync from our Shakespeare play I was just talking about. Some cool projections. And here is a little bit of our autocorrect, our improv show. Everyone loves the baby. I don't know what it is. People just love the baby. And next up we have, showing how we could, the beauty of augmented reality as opposed to virtual reality for theater is, mixing real with not real. So there I am dancing with fake me dancing, being able to mix reality together, like that creates immersion. We use the word immersion a lot, but here I think I really mean it. And also having interaction, which I'm showing here. This is one of my favorites. I can show that again. Here we have the sad bear, and then when you touch its back, it becomes a happy bear, right? So being able to have these things in time and place is what makes it feel real. It makes it feel in the moment. And to us, like, that's really the magic. That's the beauty of it. So, basically we are a theater company, we're a technology company, but we also love to explore every kind of live performance. We're getting into more and more concerts. We love comedy, storytelling, even things like trade shows. Basically, we really think augmented reality, all of us on this panel, XR, and entertainment are meant to be together, and we're just really just hustling and doing our best to get it in as many storytellers and artists' hands as possible. And that's
great. Well, this is great audience for it, particularly our colleagues in Europe. And Kiira, speaking of live theater, I was able to participate in Finding Pandora X. What an incredible experience that is, to be a virtual member of a Greek chorus, and the talent you assembled is just, I can't wait to do it again, because it's just so, it's unbelievable. So kudos. So without further ado, Kiira Benzing, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Chris, for being a member of our Greek chorus, and Brandon and others that have come through. It is always great to see the community interacting with our live performers and pushing, of course, things to the limits and being really present in our shows. So while we've also done augmented reality at Double Eye Studios, I'm going to talk more about our work in virtual reality. So I'm Kiira Benzing, as Chris said, the founder and executive creative director at Double Eye Studios, and I will share my screen now. And take you over into a little dive of some of our work. So that's a little sketch that we did of a Pandora, version of a Pandora that we ended up 3D modeling. So we're using a lot of virtual tools to create our work, and that was done by artist Sarah Finn. And so our work has been shown at a lot of film festivals. We have played around the world, premiering at these really wonderful places that have been embracing the interactive storytelling. We like to create interactive and, of course, immersive storytelling, but we've really been focused in the last group of years on designing live performances with live actors and live audiences in virtual reality, and specifically in social VR, because we want to make very collective experiences. And that just skipped a couple of slides there. So I'll just take you slightly more slowly through our slides. This shows an image of our performers, Jonathan David Martin and Jen Harris, who originated the roles of Bruce and Abby in our production of Love Seat that we premiered in 2019 at the Venice International Film Festival. And what was special about that work was this grew out of our research that we'd done with High Fidelity, and our work with High Fidelity grew out of work that my team had been doing back in 2015 and 2016, working with improvisers and actors to bring them into social VR worlds. We were building a custom platform. Then we started to play around with what High Fidelity had created, which was very robust, and bring in custom avatars and custom worlds and bring quite large audiences together. And so we started to fuse that in our work with High Fidelity. We presented a paper at Yale University with IEEE, and that was about avatar selection. And our work continued to then bring Broadway performers and professional actors even more deeply into virtual reality to work with us. We were doing full body tracking. And this image that you see here was done in a kind of hybrid format where our actors were actually performing both simultaneously to a live audience physically in Venice, as well as a virtual audience in High Fidelity. That was something that was really exciting for us. And then in 2020, we founded the Virtual Repertory Theater so that we could be bringing more actors in, as well as stage managers and other theater professionals that were finding that because the theater doors were closed during the pandemic, what else could they take their skill sets into? So we've been giving them virtual skill sets and teaching them how to design and collaborate and call shows in VR. And I'll just take you into a little behind the scenes of what Chris was talking about, our latest production of Finding Pandora X. Our shows before had been in the 30 to 45-minute range, always with the question of how long can an audience last. Finding Pandora can run anywhere from an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. We like to try and keep it at an hour if we can. It really depends on how interactive our audience can be and how many questions they even ask during our live onboarding process. But I'm going to take you behind the scenes here where you'll get to see that the audience takes on this collective role of the Greek chorus. They are using their voice during the show. They are expressing key lines in different moments and at key events with our main characters. They get to improvise with our actors at key moments. They're searching for narrative objects and touching them and interacting with them, and they're working through collaborative puzzles together. The show is written in that of a branching narrative. So you have to choose which quest you go on during the middle of the show. You can only support one lead actor, and that creates for other moments of collaboration, we believe, but also, of course, replayability. And these are things that are exciting principles for us to be exploring. So let me take you deeply into our trailer. Oh, let's see, does it want to play? Maybe I'm going to take you into our trailer. Let's see if it wants to play.
So what do you say? Are you ready to do something? Now remember, Zeus is a little temperamental. We have to approach with caution. The chorus and I have come to deliver you a message.
And it wants to freeze right there. So that might be just where we're going to end. And I'll just show you that, and I'll talk a little bit more about what's happening there. But we do have tickets on sale. We are just opening up our productions again through the end of 2021. We would love to see you there as members of our Greek chorus, interacting. People like to bring friends and family. It's a really fun experience, I think, to do with people that you know. This is a way for you to get in contact with us if you have any questions about working, merging live performance. We also work with musicians and do concerts, and we would love to take your stories more deeply with you. And if you're curious about how to learn skills or work with our team, please feel free to reach out to us. So thank you so much. And I can just finish there with some final thoughts on what you got to see with the actors and our audience and how they were interacting. There are moments there where, you know, our lead actors are saying things like, the chorus is delivering a message, and this actually changes the fate of the story. So these moments are really important. They do shift and shape what happens during the production. And because it's all live, everyone is responding to what you're actually bringing in that moment with them in that shared virtual space.
Great. And I look forward to participating once again. Blair, last but not least, Blair Russell from Crux. Blair, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. And it's tough to go after all of these incredible folks, but I'm happy to be here and happy to share a little bit. Just to remind everyone, my name is Blair Russell. My pronouns are he, him. I'm calling in from Mexico City, ancestral homeland of the Mexica. And yeah, so I am an XR producer at Crux, and Crux is probably the only studio that is dedicated to Black storytelling within XR. We are a co-op of worker owners who have come together on this mission of advancing Black storytelling, making sure that people are owning their IP, that we are creating wealth for these artists, and that they're continuing to be able to generate exciting work. I joined Crux just over a year ago, and in the past year, our team has grown and we've done a lot of exciting projects. And so I'm going to share a few of those with you right now. So yes, this is Crux. This is us. The way I joined Crux was by really I was wanting to explore live performance in VR through any means of storytelling. I was really coming from a theater background, and I thought that it would be kind of exciting to see what we could do with the theater using virtual reality or streaming. But through that, I discovered a whole world of exciting ways to explore live performance using technology. So the first project that I worked on with Crux was just a series of short plays, and we'll talk about that. We call it the Black Imagination series. But from there, we've really expanded into other areas of virtual reality and extended reality formats that have become really exciting, including projects that we're working on now. So one project that we worked on this past year was with GRX, which is Alton Glass, and some people know of Alton Glass as like the godfather of Black XR. And he worked on a project called POV, which had its debut at the Tribeca Festival. And we worked on the back end, really helping with community engagement on that project, opportunities to share that project with different communities around the country, including at colleges and university, and then the Tribeca premiere of that project. This was a full headset virtual reality experience that we put together. So let me just share my video. So what this project was really doing in a creative way was, other than buffering, allowing folks to explore how technology and AI may be used in the future of law enforcement. And it really invited the user to be a part of the exploration of this process. Oh no, it's okay, internet. Get yourself together. But it allowed the user to be really in the middle of this process while they're observing a story about how technology could be used in the future, and allowed them to respond to questions and prompts. And even before we started, we had them go through a survey process of what they felt about the use of technology. And then after they went through the POV experience, they did another survey and compared their results. And we used those results for the community conversations. Another project that we worked in the past year was we were at the MozFest, Mozilla Hubs Festival, and they asked us to create a sort of live performance experience for MozFest, which we created Battle of the Flowbots. It was a VR Afrofuturistic rap battle between Flowbot Hendrix and Flowbot Oprah, who were mother and son. And so we invited a storyteller to come and create this sort of world, and we invited people at MozFest to come and explore this experience with us. And so we created the entire world, and we built out a sort of super expressive Afrofuturistic world for them to live in. And so the audience was able to give feedback and just vote on who was the winner of the rap battle. And so we really kind of had fun with just building that at a very short timetable within Mozilla Hubs. And at Crux, we like exploring all the different platforms and understanding the sort of like pros and cons of any different platform, and how we can really dig into each of those platforms and create a unique experience for that particular platform. So we also wanted to, when we first started, I mentioned that we created the Black Imagination series. And the Black Imagination series is really our opportunity to explore different ways that we can engage with live performers, theater artists, kind of anybody who is ready to explore this brand new avenue with us. And so we created the Black Imagination series that commissioned 3 writers to write original shows that would be set in virtual reality. They all had their own original ideas of how that would take place. And through the process, we really worked with them to come up with some kind of exciting ways to engage. I think they were sort of interested in like how it differs from being in the theater and being in person. And so we had all of our actors, 5 actors in headset, all of our writers and our director in headset. They came together, they workshopped the process, they workshopped the world building and what it would look like. So we created what we called our theater island. We brought brought our audience to the theater island, and through that we told them these stories while exploring the different parts of theater island, taking them from one space to another. So I'll share a little bit of that. We did this project in Altspace VR, and it was very successful. We were actually surprised by the audience that we were able to get. We were sort of thinking maybe theater people will come and maybe some of our friends would come, but there was actually a very unique audience within the Altspace community that was kind of excited to come explore this with us. And we discovered that as long as you don't call it theater, they get excited and they come. You start calling it theater, they get a little bit nervous. So I'll share with you this. This was a piece from the talk back that we did after our live performance. You'll see my little virtual avatar there in the corner talking to the actors, but this was actually a part of it where we were under the water. So we brought the audience to this sort of underwater world where they engaged in previewing a piece with our writers and our actors, and then we did a talk back with the writer, which I am going through right now. So again, this was all something that we just took the platform of Altspace, built out the entire world, and kind of just ran with it to explore and find what we could discover. That's really kind of what Crux is focused on, is discovering new tools, technology that we can use, and just really making sure that our group of worker owners, as well as our larger community of folks, feel like they are welcomed within the space of XR, that there's a place for them, and that this this new industry, as it's continuing to grow, will be able to center the story of people of color, of Black storytellers, of people who have been marginalized in the past by other industries. And yeah, that's really our mission and goal. So I've been excited to work. We're continuing to explore other opportunities. We have a project called Iconic Black Panther, where we are using volumetric capture to capture some of the living Black Panthers and their stories, and allow audiences to engage in a sort of conversational process with them. And we're using some really, really advanced language recognition technology to allow that to happen. We hope to have that in museums, as well as, you know, maybe be able to have an app that people can use at home or in other ways. So yeah, lots of exploration from Crux. The team there is really amazing, and we are excited to explore, and I'm excited to partner with the other folks here and more people in the community as we continue to grow.
Fantastic. That's great stuff. I love the flow bots, and I can't wait to see the Iconic Black Panther. Have you been in touch with Lorenz Grant, who did an amazing documentary on the Black Panthers about 5 years ago? But yeah, I look forward to that. But I have a question for you, Blair. The gamification, and I love what you're doing with Flowbots in hubs. That forum, you know, in terms of enabling more people to come in and bring more creativity, but that level of gamification, to your point of not calling it theater, but it is theater. It is. Absolutely. It doesn't have a proscenium. But do you find that there's a gamer audience, or that gamification brings people in? I mean, where does the intersection of that the gamer world or the enticement of gamification, you know, enable your theater to breathe?
I think the most important thing that I've really discovered about myself, and coming from a theater background and wanting to figure out, like, what are the core tenets of something that make it feel theatrical, that's really shifted, as well as knowing that we tend to think in XR that it's always coming from the game side or like the film side, and that's what people think is most important. Really, it lives somewhere in the middle. I think those who can tell stories in a theater, especially in an immersive setting, are like truly overqualified for what we have to do in VR spaces. But it's really people who are looking for adventure, an experience, something new. And theater is an experience as much as playing in a game is an experience. So finding out, particularly for us, we're focusing on the stories. How do we tell this story in a way that is engaging and an experience for the audience? And whether we think of it as theater or we think of it as a game, it really doesn't matter, because most folks are just coming and experiencing VR for the first time, and they don't really know how to qualify anything. So it leaves it really open to interpretation.
But then you don't have as many expectations or maybe even, you know, false assumptions. It really opens the mind. It's a really cool way to look at it. I just love that work. This is really an open question, and I think you all touched on you know, this topic, which is this hybrid model that I think we're moving into, if we haven't already, live and in-person theater as a possibility. You know, I was not just a audience member for Kiira's piece, but I was in the audience for Lorne's piece, which was Alibi, which he showed some clips from, which for those who don't know was at the Gene Frankel Theater here in New York in February. But that was the actors and the production team in the theater. I was part of the Zoom audience. And of course, there were great effects. And some of them were really like AR kit, AR core, but all of you, I mean, and I'll throw this to you first, Brandon. I mean, don't you feel that we've now reached a point where a certain self-selected audience would attend something in person, but you could also have the tier of people who are doing this at home, whether it's in VRARA or in a headset? I mean, how do you feel about that hybrid model?
Yeah, absolutely. We are definitely there. I think we all on this call would agree that there's no going back to kind of the way things were, and that it's really now a matter of accessibility, and it's a matter of trying to be with the audience and meet the audience where they want to be, right? And then creating a dynamic interaction for them wherever that is, right? So is that on Zoom but with amazing effects as Lorne has? You know, is it in VR chat with Double Eye? You know, is it a completely live stream or recorded piece that you're just getting to access later? All of these tiers are possible, right? It's just a matter of, I think, being smart about what the piece wants and then kind of going from there.
Yeah. So for example, the shed, I mean, those are some great images, and you're thinking to yourself, that's a space that I see a multi-dimensionality to, and obviously you as the producer, the choreographer, are looking at an audience that would say, yeah, even if you are live in person, and also for a certain segment have a headset on, but from a dance piece or something that has some level of participation, I see so many really cool possibilities there. Kiira, I mean, you have produced different sort of pieces, if you will, and some are going to be in repertory. And to your point of creating this virtual rep company, you're bringing in, I mean, now we're here, Broadway's quote unquote back, but virtual theater has been alive and well during the pandemic. I mean, I would think that you could pull in people who are even on set, or they're even, on an off night doing something, and that's going to go on for as long as possible, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think both, to Blair's point, talking about, as many people are coming in for their first time as audience members into VR, and to everyone here that's working with also having live audiences as they've been doing in New York City, I think that we're going to see all of these models growing. We're going to be growing our audience. We're going to be growing their understanding of how they engage and interact with the show, how it's acceptable to use their device. It's encouraged, in fact. We want them to be playing with the space and playing with our actors. This is a new kind of dialogue. So I think there's a lot of emergence that's happening, and the four of us are really experimenting with it in different ways, and really excited to keep bringing the audiences in that want to meet us there and are ready for this kind of hybrid possibility, as well as the performers that are looking for something after their typical performance. What new skill set can they grow? And the most exciting thing, I think, for us is just how global the audiences can be, and how all these time zones can really intersect with each other in the middle of the same space.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about meeting people, and finding Pandora X. You've got people from Mexico City, you've got people from all over. It's fantastic. But Lorne, I mean, to kind of tag on to Kiira's point, are we getting close to that point where it's not experimental theater? The idea, and of course, as we've known for years, you've had opera companies, you've had a lot of companies that have experimented with having these extensions, but live music, dance, theater, I mean, don't you think that the kind of XR extensions might come more into what you would buy as a subscriber, for example? Is that even possible?
I think 100%. I think there's two kind of models to it, at least. I mean, there's for sure more than two, but as we see it, right? There's one, which is, this is your primary show. and you're trying to do a hybrid model, and the thing you have to think about most in that regard is that nobody's an afterthought, right? That you're not building a live show and then figuring out what the hybrid thing is later. I think that's where people made mistakes early on in the pandemic for virtual theater, is they took their old regular shows and just shuffled them in front of a live stream audience, and we have to be careful not to do that. So as long as you're building towards something that is unified and both things are the main focus, is great. But the possibility of these virtual things also being add-ons and extras, for the theater industry, where revenue is not always a simple thing, that it really is a cool part, right? People can be part of the experience. They can control an avatar on stage. They can, through interactions, affect effects on stage. They can even affect the story, kind of choose your own adventure type dynamics, which make people feel more part, not only feel more part of it, but actually literally be more part of it. And if you can do that for virtual and live audiences simultaneously, then you can create a truly successful hybrid experience. We're working on now, actually, it's a virtual burlesque show, which is also—
Of course you would.
Of course we are, yeah. Well, our associate artistic director, Brian Reardon, is a really renowned producer of burlesque. So we've been thinking about this for a long time. But what's super exciting about this show is it's also an interactive mystery game. So one of the two performers every night is evil. And through looking at the augmented reality effects and also seeing what's hidden by the augmented reality effects, the audience has to vote on who's evil each night, right? So this is something that can work live and will also hopefully work virtual, and we're building it for both of those audiences simultaneously.
So virtual, interactive, burlesque dinner theater. That's essentially where we are.
Boom.
This is like murder mystery. This is fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, coming before the end of the year.
Okay, this is something to look forward. Do you have a title? What are you calling it?
It's called the Mystic AR Cabaret.
The Mystic AR Cabaret. I want to be there, definitely. So
absolutely. It'll be in New York City, possibly also the Gene Frankel Theater. They're a wonderful host.
Well, I'd love to be there in person too, if I can. That's
absolutely. We'll have our first live show will be at the Augies, but this will probably be our second live show in 2 years.
What's the date of the Augies for our audience?
It is November 10th. Will be the halftime show.
Oh, fabulous. Fantastic. This is great. So in the few minutes that we have left, I'm going to go around. I'm going to start with you, Blair. What have we learned during the pandemic? Because in the 18 months as we now slowly emerge, hopefully we'll stay emerged and not submerged. What have we learned? What do you think we've gained in terms of understanding audiences or technology? I mean, if you could look back 18 months to where we are now.
I think there's always a fear of audience being able to adapt or adjust or adopt something. And what we've seen in the past year, we're doing it right now, is that in a matter of weeks, everyone learned how to use a new technology, something that they had never used before, right? So this fear, whether it's from theater companies or other organizations who are trying to figure out how to engage with their audiences or their subscribers, we know that people can do it. We absolutely know that people can do it, and they will do it if it's something that they want to do. We wanted to meet, we wanted to connect with our families, we wanted to be entertained, we wanted to watch shows, and we learned how. So we really need to get rid of that fear of trying new things or always being nervous that people won't be able to figure it out. I mean,
I think that encapsulates it beautifully. Brandon, what about you from that look back to where we are now?
Yeah, I would just say that more than anything, this time has, as many people say, it's accelerated what was always going to happen, right? And in some ways, that's what we can kind of take as us in this work can take as a silver lining of it, is being able to talk with folks who never wanted to have anything to do with any of this work, but now understand, because they were forced into it a little bit, what's possible, and that it's not just a stopgap, but it actually can bring in all sorts of new folks. I think when it comes to audiences, to the point earlier, sometimes we're not really thinking about how there's actually a whole new audience out there who doesn't ever go to theater, but they own Oculus Quests because they're either 10 years old or because they love games, and they're just as valuable as an audience, just because they're not your
even more so.
Yeah, right. Just because they're not your typical middle-aged to older white woman, suburban, doesn't mean that they shouldn't go see high-quality theater, right?
Amen.
And that's what I think we've learned.
Kiira, I mean, what's your take, just in a nutshell, briefly?
I think our audiences are growing. I think their appetite is growing, their curiosity is growing, and we are all ready to bring them in and welcome them with open virtual arms.
It's great. And Lorne, obviously, you've got a special take on this. I mean, what do you think, if you were to look back 18 months ago to now? What have you sort of gained or learned? What sorts of things?
Yeah, I mean, I say amen to everything everyone said. We shouldn't have this. I had such fear in March 2020. Like, I just had no idea. It took even a while to decide we're going to continue to do this. And so I think, yeah, just jump in, trust your audiences, trust storytelling, and just go for it. I think like we're in a similar weird period now where we don't know what the future is, kind of in reverse.
But
so
exactly.
I'm trying to remember, just we can do this and tell a good story and be true to yourselves, and audiences will like it. I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, I've been to how many virtual concerts and virtual productions. I just went to my first real concert last week. I'm going to one tonight, and hopefully live in-person theater again soon. Even though, but it feels as if this hybrid model of meeting the audiences where they are, to particularly to Blair's point, I think is absolutely spot on, and Brandon's point as well. And that will be, I think, the key topic for our Q&A, which is going to start briefly. But again, I want to thank this incredible group of panelists. And Lorne, you win the comeback award for coming back in, and that was beautiful. Great re-entry. You're
my best.
Fabulous. You're the best, man. So again, Lorne Svarc from Technodramatists, Blair Russell from Crux, Brandon Powers Projects, and of course, Kiira Benzing from Double Eye Studios. I'm Chris Pfaff. We will speak to you in Q&A very shortly. Thanks again. Thanks to Anne-Marie Enns and Chris Colo and Nathan Pettijohn, the whole group at VRARA. This is another fabulous summit, and to everyone in Europe watching, thanks again. To be continued. Thanks.